All right, my friends, good afternoon and welcome to our next draw here on TV1's continuing coverage of the 2017 Scotties Tournament of Hearts and Deloitte Tankard. We had women's action for you earlier, and coming up now is going to be men's draw number 3. I'm Scott Squires, joined alongside my commentating partner, Matt Paul, and our feature game for you here on sheet 3 is Team Mayhew taking on Team Thompson. Team Thompson comes in unblemished at 2-0, and Team Mayhew, their record even up at 1-1. So obviously, as we talked about with the women's side of things, when you start getting 3-4 games into the round robin, Matt, you start looking at your own record and other teams. So a big opportunity here for Thompson to go 3-0, and of course, you know that Mayhew is going to want to get one up on the win side and go to 2-1.
Yeah, no, for sure. Stuart's team's definitely one of the favorites, so that's exactly it. It's an opportunity. I'm sure they've they've played everybody around here. You've played at some point, kind of thing. There is some history, and I think today it's just Stuart's going to be got a lot more experience than Mayhew, but you never know with the younger guys. They come out sometimes. They just are oblivious to anything around them. Shoot well, play well, and win. So
you just described me, Matt. I was completely oblivious when I was young. Some would say I still am, but that's up for debate. So the teams now have done their draw to the button, and to see who gets the advantage of last rock to start off this first end. And it's like, I guess, the coin flip in football to decide who receives the kick, but how much of an advantage is it to get that last rock coming out of the gate first end?
Less so in 10-end games, but whether it's 8 ends or 10 ends, it's really important. It can get you out of a lot of trouble having last rock, especially, you've thrown through practice rocks. You're most likely going to be able to make a draw to the button to get out of trouble. Or, one mistake from your opposition, and it's, a big 2 or 3 point lead. So it's suddenly a 9-end game. Within you having a 3-point lead, your odds of winning go way up.
So Team Mayhew were closest to the button, so it's Team Thompson getting us started off here in the first end, and it's Team Thompson is lead Billy MacRae, second Travis Colter, third Colten Steele, and their skip is Stuart Thompson. Team Mayhew, their lead rock thrown by Nick Burdock, then their second is Neil Gallant, third Chris MacRae, and skip Robert Mayhew.
Well, pretty standard beginning here for Stuart. Throw up a center guard halfway. Not sure if Mayhew here called in the rings or corner guard.
So Team Mayhew throwing the blue rocks, and Team Thompson will be yellow for this game. And we saw in the 12 o'clock draw on the women's side that as the draw wore on into the later ends, both teams, and one side in particular, really seemed to be having a problem reading the ice. The ice conditions seemed to change later on, and not so sure if it's a result of the play on the ice or the conditions that we talked about in the women's side. But for those of you watching and listening, very mild here in the Halifax area today, plus temperatures, a lot of rain overnight and then into today. So, that may be playing a factor as the end wears on.
For sure. And you're looking at 2 long practices. You're looking at a 10-end game as well. Sometimes 11. There's really a lot of question as to whether Pebble can really stand up that long to begin with. But it'll definitely change. It'll most likely get slower in the middle and a little faster on the outside, which is why teams will have trouble with it. It'll start off gliding just fine, come to the middle, and then stop. So.
Now, of course, the teams, you talked about, the teams do get to practice, for a few minutes beforehand, and then they have that draw to the button. But generally, how long does it take to really get a good feel of what the ice is like and how it's playing?
It should be close to the same, especially at something at the level of this. It should be relatively consistent. From draw to draw. So they should have a handle on it already. I haven't heard from any of the players that there's been any major change from day-to-day, draw to draw, or anything like that. So that's why there are a lot of people out there who really think that practice should be shortened and help the ice stand up longer, because if you don't have an idea by now, you're never really going to.
So again, we're early stages here of this opening end between Team Mayhew at 1-1, Team Thompson at 2-0. This is the third draw on the men's side of things. Action on all 4 sheets here today. We have the other Thompson rink taking on Team Murphy. That's our other feature game on TV1. That's on sheet 4. We'll do our best to keep you apprised of all the scores from the other games throughout the course. I'll probably put that on you, Matt.
Oh, great.
To give the updates as we go along. Surprise.
Yeah.
So already early on, we're seeing some rocks in play here, and it's interesting to see the ebb and flow of different games. We saw a couple of different things come into play in the women's game we did earlier. We saw a blank in the first end there, but in this end, again, we see some rocks in play, and that one is run back. So a couple of blue rocks for Team Mayhew currently counting in the house.
Yeah, it all really started with Mayhew going to the side there and drawing into the house, which I don't know, I'm not a huge fan of, and so because of what Stuart did was just go around his center guard. It's kind of worked out for him at this point with Stuart rubbing at one point, but an opportunity to make a good one here.
Just the one sweeper in on this rock, and it's Travis Colter. There's a nice look at the path of that rock, easily by those yellow stones in front. Takes that blue Thompson rock, Mayhew rock, and sends it out the back, so that'll be shot rock for Thompson.
Yeah, they'll just trade hits here for a little bit, and it'll be a little interesting to see what Stuart does if they roll under. I mean, he'll most likely play the run back, but
so at least early on, we're not seeing a whole lot of activity from the front end in terms of sweeping. The throwers seem to be online, and that one is indeed, as that Mayhew rock takes care of the Thompson yellow, drives it out the back. So once again, Team Mayhew, Robert Mayhew and his foursome, sitting 2 once again.
Stuart's got to be really, I'm assuming he's seeing it. Hopefully when he rolls in from this one that he's still shot. If he's not, could be big trouble. Mayhew could go all the way around everything to lie too.
Getting down to the last couple of stones here in this opening first end of this men's draw 3 at the Deloitte Tankard. Scott Squires, along with Matt Paul, glad to have you here on our TV1 broadcast, streaming to you from the Mayflower Curling Club in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Day 2 from the Nova Scotia Provincial Curling Championship. Want to encourage you to follow along on Twitter. You can send out your tweets, use the hashtag NSCurls, and also, being it's Bell Let's Talk Day, also use the hashtag Bell Let's Talk. Help get the conversation going, and also every tweet using Bell Let's Talk, Bell will donate 5 cents to the cause of raising awareness and finding cures for mental illness. There you see Thompson watching this one come in, and that's a nose hit. Again, as you said, Matt, just trading hit for hit here, and again, we see Mayhew lying 2.
Well, this is Thompson's chance to get out of the end here. Can make the double and roll in behind the center guards, so. Or not. I guess he's just playing for the roll.
Again, just the one sweeper in on that Thompson throw. Team Thompson. Stuart Thompson watches that one. Do they get the rub on the one in the back? Nice double. Looked, it might have been a little thin there, but he gets the fortuitous hit and roll at the back end and takes them both out.
A board weight double, nothing wrong with that.
So a nice looking shot early on here. That'll give the confidence a little boost in end number 1.
Yeah, if he meant to play it.
Hey, now that's how I play pool. Of course I meant to make that shot.
But the good thing with the shot that he did, threw exactly the right way, threw it perfectly, and when you do it like that, and you're always going to be around the right spot, then you have options, and that was certainly without a doubt an option. Try for the roll, and then if it's going to roll too much, then get the double and roll quite far away from the center guards, and then it's more difficult for them to roll back in behind the center guards. So that's. So
you see, that's what we're left with. Just the one rock in the house, and it is a blue Team Mayhew rock. A couple of guards right on that center line out in front. So an interesting bit of information passed along here from our intrepid commentator, Selena Thompson. Team Thompson, skipped by Stuart Thompson, a 3-curler rotation. So lead Billy MacPhee not in the mix. They're going with Travis Colter, Colten, Steele, and Stuart Thompson. And I will be quite frank, I've covered a lot of curling commentating, and I've watched a lot of curling. First time I've seen that happen. Have you witnessed something similar to that, Matt?
No, I mean, is somebody injured or?
You know what? I will see if I can get Selena to bring you that information as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming it would be.
And it was interesting because I waited, because sometimes you will see teams switch the order of who's throwing, because I did notice that Travis Colter led off throwing lead rock in the first end.
Okay.
But I was waiting to see, and it's hard too because a lot of the players don't have the names on the backs of their sweaters, jerseys, whatever, but Selena knows everyone. So a man down.
Wow.
So we'll see how that plays out for Team Thompson. I guess at the end of the day, you've got 8 rocks to throw in an end, and you got to throw them.
Well, yeah, that's certainly logical. It just never seems to. You never seem to play well with 3 players. That's for sure. I don't know why. I think the note there just says that he's away. Yeah, so don't get paid to curl yet for for 99% of the planet. So it's it's tough to just go up to your boss and tell them, by the way, I need a week off without a lot of warning. So it's a big commitment from a lot of these guys.
Yeah, sometimes schedules can conflict, and so we thank Selena very much for that update and that information. So again, Team Thompson going with the 3-man rotation. Travis Colter, Colten, Steele, and Stuart Thompson will handle all of the duties. So 8 rocks divided amongst 3 players. And I guess it's hard to determine what kind of effect that can have on a team if you're used to a certain player with a certain style throwing your lead rock, especially in today's game where it's so much more opened up offensively.
Sure.
And every rock counts. It's hard to maybe try to determine what kind of an effect that could have on a team and their flow.
No, without a doubt, lead's a different animal. So it's real different mindset, and it's tough to just waltz in and play it. And it's tough to just play with 3, period, in the middle of something that's an important event. I mean,
so Mayhew able to score in that end with the hammer. Excuse me, that was blanked. So we'll have to wait and see, as it's Team Thompson now will be leading off again here in this second end. So an interesting beginning to this one, as it's Team Thompson skipped by Stuart Thompson. Down a man, as it were. So 3 curlers throwing for them in this draw. And Team Mayhew, well, status quo for that foursome.
Yeah, they haven't lost a player yet.
I'm nervous about the use of the term yet.
Yeah. I can get lost. Lots of curtains are in here.
Well, I've talked about it earlier. I'm actually surprised that more people don't fall. I talk about it all the time, especially the sweepers. And I joked earlier with Carly Jones, who was on headset with me, that if it were me out there trying to sweep, watch a rock, and skirt around other rocks, I'd be like a deer on ice. I'd just be falling all over the place. So my foursome would be down a man because I'd probably have a head injury within the first end. So again, both these teams starting off end number 1 and now here in end number 2, willing to mix it up, putting rocks in play. But again, an end can start off one way and finish off completely another. As we saw in that first end, it looked like there might be some rocks in play, some points put up on the board, but they ended up blanking it, and Mayhew carries the hammer over into end number 2.
Well, Stuart just going to guard this, and then Mayhew's kind of got a decision to make. He could throw a guard on that one that slipped into the rings. And Stuart's going to come around his own again. He could freeze to Stuart's here. That's kind of the obvious one. Yep.
So that's just out of your shot there, and there it is. On that angle, that rock put up, it's about a mid-range guard sitting right on that center line. And then in behind, the couple of rocks that you see, the Thompson yellow sitting at the top of the 8, just off to the center. Robert Mayhew watches this one come down, and it's just going to tap on that center line guard. And rolls off to the side fairly deep, maybe about a foot or so, just above the edge of that 12-foot.
It was tough to say what happened there. I mean, it's you don't even need to come close to that guard kind of thing. If you get by a foot and you only bury 1 inch of it, it kind of does the job. So.
Well, we'll have to see as well. Like again, in the previous game that we did here between Team McConnery and Team Green on the women's side in draw number 3, we did see some issues with the ice reading. We actually had a couple of rocks in one particular end. 2 lead rocks actually didn't make the hog line. Almost the exact same line, exact same weight, stopped about 3 to 4 inches above the hog line. And that was in the later ends. That was around the 7th end. So again, not saying that that's the case here in terms of there being kind of some issues reading the ice, but we've seen a couple of kind of misses here in the early stages of this one, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But again, lots of rocks in play here. You see it. All kinds of traffic out in front. Seven draws in the round robin. So very important to get off to a good start. Team Thompson, as mentioned, Stuart Thompson and his team, 2-0 coming into this one. Robert Mayhew and his foursome at 1-1. When you start getting into draw 3, draw 4, that's when you really start kind of paying attention to the other teams, what their record is and what your record is as well. You don't all of a sudden want to be a couple of losses on the bad side of the ledger, if you will, when you're 3 or 4 draws in.
Yeah, it's tough knowing you have to string together, a whole whack of wins like that, right? When you get into a bit of an early hole, just somehow squeezing out, 2 wins out of your first 3 games. It's just remarkably different mentally than 1 and 2.
So we see this stone from Team Thompson on its way. Again, just the one sweeper out in front. Looks to be sweeping it more for line than anything. Now they come onto it a little more to see if they can get it to move over just a bit. And it'll come and sit about 2 feet above that 12-foot and just off to one side of that center line. So put your skip's hat on for a second here. What's the play here for Team Mayhew?
Yeah, it's pretty simple one for him. He's just trying to make a straight run back. I mean, hopefully he's not outside and takes out his own blue, but the only problem is you better make this or else you're going to leave a guard there and theirs in the house.
And he gets the direct nose hit, drives the one Thompson rock directly back onto the other, and basically the one Thompson rock sits right there. So not the result that Mayhew wanted on that. you see, I know you don't see it in your shot right now, but there's also the thinking time clock. Early stages, you got barrels of time. You don't think about it too much. Do you really start to think about that when you're out there curling as it gets into the later end?
Sure.
Do you really start to pay attention to how much is left on there?
Yeah, you kind of have a, most of us have played so many bloody games. We have an idea. You have a feel how it's going along the line. But generally in about the 7th or 8th end, see down there? Yeah, 7th or 8th end, you start kind of looking at the score. If you're down, are you really going to have to go through things quickly? But it's rarely a problem because it's manageable, unless you're really not paying attention.
Because I know we had a game in one of the earlier draws on the men's side where both teams got down to 4 or 5 minutes on the thinking time with a couple of ends to go, and I guess decidedly the pace of the stone throwing picked up considerably. So a nice shot there moments ago as Team Thompson was able to get past that guard out front. And then this one running it straight back, and they do not get a piece of that yellow Thompson stone at the top of the 12, and it'll leave it right there. And the blue Mayhew rock goes right out of the back. So a break there for Team Thompson.
See, a couple of shots ago, Thompson hit a blue that was kind of in that top right-hand portion there, and it was blocking the draw around that guard on the right. I'm just wondering if this is really difficult now. If he feathers a guard, then Mayhew can come right around everything. So I was a little worried when he opened up that side there, because there's certainly the ice is good enough for an in-turn draw. He could get a couple in there.
So certainly lots going on in the early stages of this, and we're just in end number 2. But lots of twists and turns so far in this one, and this one just taps on that center line guard, pushes it over to the side, and then it comes to rest just on that left side of your screen.
Okay, he's going to try a boardish kind of weight here and just hit this and roll, hopefully behind those yellow corner guards.
Last couple of rocks here. We're almost down to skip stones in this end. Chris MacRae with his second throw here in this second end.
Looks like there's lots of curl on that, but it's not doing much.
Burdock and Gallant, just watch that one sail right down that center line. Move some rocks around in the middle. You see that one Thompson yellow right out the back, and then the blue Mayhew stone kind of curls over there and sits just right above that tee line on the 12-foot. So there's been a few twists and turns so far just in this second end.
Yeah, it's surprising.
Great to have you on board with us here. Scott Squires and Matt Paul with you. Our continuing coverage on TV1 as we're streaming all of the draws from sheets 3 and 4 during the 2017 Scotties Tournament of Hearts and Deloitte Tankard. Great to have the fine folks from 45 North here as well. They do a fantastic job bringing you the sights and sounds, and I'd be hard-pressed to find a production crew that does curling any better anywhere in Canada. And that hit will take the Mayhew blue out the back. Shooter rolls off to the side. So now what we're left with is a pretty clean house. Just that one rock that you see sitting up at the top right, just by the Scotties emblem on the ice there, the logo.
Yeah, it was a pretty big miss there for Stuart. He makes that 99 times out of 100. It's just really, really straight on the outside there. And rolling out now leaves Mayhew a pretty big opportunity here. That being said, I don't know what he's doing.
Well, if you, the avid curler, is saying that, I'm just going to sit back and watch, see how this plays out. And that's the thing. There could be so many options, and at the end of the day, that's why the skip has all that responsibility. At the end of the day, it comes down to the skip to decide what they want to throw. I mentioned it in an earlier broadcast, but for me, I just be throwing hack weight all the time. Just up the middle.
Just pick
down
one.
the middle every time.
It's like taking a 7-iron out. And
yeah, exactly. Chipping it from the green every time.
Okay. Well, it just curled that much in the.
A lot of movement on that, eh?
Yeah.
Really, really moved over from the right side of your screen. The last 20 feet of that rock moved big time from the right to the left. Big swing on the last stages of that rock.
That's probably about 90% buried. Pretty darn good shot.
So Team Mayhew trying to take advantage of that blank in one, carrying the hammer over here to the second end. See if they can put a crooked number up on the board.
But that's kind of a good lesson, too, about that, get by guards by a foot, not by a couple of inches. If you're getting by a couple of inches, that's really, that's a miss. You got to be getting by a foot. If you're 90% buried or 100% buried, who cares? It's not worth the risk of wrecking on a guard.
So we're down into skip stones here. Team Mayhew throwing blue. Blanked one, have the hammer here in the second end. Team Thompson throwing the yellow stones. And right now it's Team Mayhew sitting two.
This is difficult, that's for sure.
Coming down on that far side.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what was going on there. I guess he was just hitting the open one and conceding to.
Yeah, I don't think he could have hit that thin enough for the double.
No, not at all. Yeah, I think he's just giving him two. Yeah, because he's right. The only other option would have been to freeze to that one in the 8 foot and then make a tough draw to the 4 foot. But it's really not worth the risk with the score still being zeros.
So Thompson takes care of one blue, and as you mentioned, looks like he is going to concede the two, although, again, there's never a gimme in curling. Anything can happen, and until it actually settles in and you count it, you got to hold your breath. So it's out of Mayhew's hand into the hands now of his front end for the sweeping.
This is, when you have same everything, same path, same, that's got to be, you got to make it.
Weight looks good.
Yep, real good. Perfect.
Line's good. And the points are good. So put 2 up on the board for blue, and it's Team Mayhew with a 2-0 lead after 2 ends complete. And that'll send the hammer now to Stuart Thompson and his threesome. And for those of you just joining us, their lead not available to play in this draw, so they are going with a 3-man rotation of Travis Colter, Colten, Steele, and the skip, Stuart Thompson. And again, hard to know how that can affect a team in terms of its chemistry and its flow. And, obviously guys are going to have to throw stones that they're not typically used to throwing in situations that they're not used to throwing them. But again, these guys wouldn't be at this level if they weren't used to dealing with some adversity and tough times.
Yeah,
so
it's happened to every team in critical spots at some point. It's happened to my team numerous times, and it's you got to be honest. Can't really understate how important it is. It's it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense that you should be able to win close to as many games with 3 players as you do 4, but it's. God, it just seems to be so rare that if you see a team, go with 3 at any tour event ever, they never seem to win.
Well, again, I guess, you wonder how it comes into team chemistry and flow and all of that stuff. But, that's what Stuart Thompson and his team have got to contend with, and they're not going to make any excuses. They're going to go out there and throw. Now, flipping it over to Robert Mayhew, we saw him blank the first. He just scored 2 in the second. What's the conventional wisdom now for a skip? Do you want to try to put the pedal down and maybe go for a steal here in 3, or does it depend on the time of the game? Does it depend on the skip?
Yeah, it's going to kind of depend on the first couple of rocks are almost scripted type thing. You know, you're going to throw on top 4. You know they're going to throw a corner, and then you know you're going to throw a tight center guard. The big rock is this one, and it just depends on what Stuart does with this. But it looks like this is slipping into the house, so it's pretty much going to. Yeah, so, well, now you're looking to blank or force at this point. Let him, let him blank the end, or you force into one. It's just not a good situation for him here.
So that Mayhew offering, as you mentioned, did slip into the house, and it's just sitting just above the blue rock that was already there.
So they're going to nose it. It's kind of, acts like a freeze type thing. And now Stuart's got a corner guard, and, well, what he was trying for was to have one frozen on top of the blue.
So he doesn't quite get that result. He does take care of the Mayhew rock that was in the back, and there's what you see sitting in the rings right now. We've got that one guard just off to the left, and then the 2 rocks, one blue, one yellow, sitting in the house. I want to remind you as well, it's Bell Let's Talk Day, so if you're watching with us and you'd like to send something out on Twitter, please send out your tweet and also include the hashtag NSCurls, as well as hashtag Bell Let's Talk. As you know, for every text message, phone call, Instagram message, Facebook post, and Snapchat geofilter, with Bell Let's Talk, Bell will donate 5 cents toward the cause of helping to keep the conversation going and to find a cure and to help with mental illness. So Bell Let's Talk Day all day today. We appreciate all the assistance and all the things that you do to include the hashtag Bell Let's Talk in all of your social media communication. So again, play just into the third end here. 2-0, Team Mayhew, a blank in 1. Mayhew with 2 in the second. And Thompson has last rock here in the third. And Colten Steele working hard now, and he gets some help from his skip, Stuart Thompson. Come out and just trying to drag this one over that hog line. I don't know if Steele doesn't bear down and really come onto that the last 10 yards or so. I don't know if that makes the hog.
No, might not. Yeah, you're going to see this pretty much the rest of the, barring any mistakes or anything. Mayhew was right and peeling that corner guard as soon as he could. That was a dangerous rock for him. I was just going to keep peeling the guards.
Right on it, nice angle, peels it away. Out goes the yellow. Shooter rolls out as well. So a wide open lane down the middle there. There's a perfect look at it.
And Stuart's got to make a decision how long he wants to kind of do this for, how long he wants to keep putting up the guard, because at some point Mayhew will go in around the guard. But you're kind of guessing as to what that point's going to be.
And that can't be easy. We just saw moments ago Colten Steele really, really, really working. And then I guess the point is that these curlers, and I think Carly Jones made the point on the broadcast we did earlier, more than ever, curlers, especially the front end guys that do, or girls that do a lot of the sweeping, got to be in good shape.
Yeah. It's just 20 to 30 seconds, but as hard as you can go, and then 2-minute recovery, and then 20 seconds as hard as you can go, and which isn't a ton, but when you put that over, 2 or 3 games in a day, put it over a week, suddenly it starts to. And funny enough, they find. At skips even have a ridiculously high heart rate throughout a game, and it was interesting how many calories a skip would actually burn just standing there and thinking and going through every and pacing back and forth and stressed out the entire time.
Well, I tell you what, I get winded just watching these curlers. No question about it, especially the front ends that do so much of that sweeping. So we see this end playing out again. Nothing in front at all in the way of any kind of guards. Just the 2 rocks sitting in the house. Stuart Thompson with last rock here in this third end.
You can't. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's starting to slow down already.
And a carbon copy of what we saw in the women's draw earlier between Breen and McConnery, where a couple of rocks, even back-to-back, just literally died 5-6 feet in front of that hog line. For anybody that's watching as well, I know you love to watch your curling, and we love to bring it to you on TV1. We were also scheduled to bring you opening day coverage of the Curling New Brunswick Scotties, and due to the power outages from the rain and freezing rainstorm overnight last night and into today, day one of the New Brunswick Scotties from Miramichi has been canceled. So TV1 will be bringing you coverage starting at 1 o'clock tomorrow.
Well, Stuart, you're looking to get out of a little trouble here. It's tough to remember who's throwing when it's 3-3 now.
Yeah, it's a bit of a different rotation, that's for sure.
Well, I was just going to get the roll here, I think. But it's good. What you're trying to do is just group them together and then maybe get an easier double than that was.
Well, he does get the roll over, and there you see Mayhew talking things over. And the interesting thing is with the three-person rotation, we haven't really talked about it. You really only have one person available to brush.
Yeah,
because you've got the person throwing, you've got somebody spotting down in the scoring ring. So you really only have, so again, that physically, that's going to take its toll over time. So again, for me, it's an interesting dynamic. I've actually never seen that scenario before, either in any of the events that I've commentated or watching various curling events on TV. So certainly kind of an interesting anomaly, and I'm sure kind of a different scenario for Stuart Thompson and his team as well.
Okay, so you got a roll here somehow, somewhere. Nose hit, you're looking at giving up, you're going to give him that double. Yeah, it's pretty much anywhere except there, just a little bad luck.
So now Thompson, again, throwing yellow with last rock, but things kind of going a little more toward the way of Mayhew, at least in this end. You always want to try and, when you give up a crooked number to your opponent, as Thompson did with Mayhew scoring 2 in the second, when you've got the hammer coming back in the next end, you definitely want to make sure that you at least yourself put a crooked number on the board. You never want to come back with just a single if you can help it.
Mm-hmm.
So here is the throw here coming from Team Thompson.
Looks pretty good.
There's one, and there's two, and that's a good shot indeed as it takes care of both of those Mayhew Blues, and now just leaves that lone Thompson rock sitting right there. And that's how quickly the tone of an end can change just on one well-made shot.
So you got to be really aggressive with that, where the player nosed it. Encourage them to, even if you happen to roll out, whatever, that's at least you gave the roll a chance kind of thing. It's just a little too safe.
So we get down to the last few rocks of this third end. It's the last throw here for Team Mayhew as we are into skip stones.
Yeah, Stuart will get the blank here, I'm sure, and but next end for him is going to be one where you better start putting some pressure on.
Well, that's the thing. All of a sudden, you're going along playing your game, and all of a sudden you look up and you realize, my gosh, we're into like end number 6, end number 7.
Exactly.
When do we make our move?
So I'm thinking, ice looks fine, really, and he seems to know it. They just got to make as many shots as they can next end and continue to go after them.
Well, and there's been more than one occasion where I've seen a shot like this that the skip has missed. So again, there's never a gimme. He's got
no, you're
the
right.
good weight. Line looks good. Does he get the rollout? He does, and that's the danger of a shot like that is you get the stick. But he plays the right ice, plays the right weight, and gets the blank. So Thompson didn't like the way that end was starting to shape up. He takes the blank in 3, and he'll move to the 4th end, retaining the hammer, and Mayhew will keep that 2-0 lead. And we've talked a lot about the ice and the difficulty of maintaining ice at an event like this where it's being played basically constantly all week long, and the last couple of days in very mild temperatures, and sometimes you overlook the folks who are taking care of the ice, and the gentleman responsible for the ice making here at this event at the Mayflower is John Wall. His company is Wall to Wall Ice, and he's going to be featured on an upcoming episode of Champions Untold. Champions Untold is a program that we have on 5 TV1 that basically looks at some of the folks in and around your local community who are a big part of the sports world, but maybe don't get the press, if you will, or the recognition or accolades. So we did a little research on John Wall, and the host of the program, Reza Lalani, discovered that John is a very highly respected ice maker and actually just got back from a trip to China.
Oh, good for
where
him.
he was teaching them about ice making over in China. So check that out. You can certainly find it on TV1 online, bellaline.ca/TV1, and look for a feature on John Wall from Wall to Wall Ice on an upcoming episode of Champions Untold.
Wow. I've known John for over a decade, and Champion Untold. That is one way I'd never describe him. That's great. I will call him that for the rest of his life, though.
Well, you've at least got to give him a week or 2 of that moniker.
Oh, no. It'll last much longer than a week. Don't you worry.
Any razzing that John Wall may take from the aforementioned Matt Paul is not the responsibility of myself, TV1 or 45.
Yeah.
So if you're Stuart Thompson, we know the situation with the 3-person rotation. There's been a couple of blanks in this game already. What's his strategy going to be now here in this one? We're in now to the 4th end, so we're approaching the halfway mark. We're going to get that break between 5 and 6. Do you get the sense that he might need to maybe turn it up a little bit offensively, or is it still not right that time
Yeah,
yet?
it's still not all in, but situationally based kind of thing. When he's got this set up here, one of theirs, back 12, center guard and a corner guard, this is the most ideal situation he can have, so he should be playing this end like he's all in kind of thing. You don't get a better setup for yourself than this.
And on the flip side of that, if you're Robert Mayhew, maybe trying to get inside the head of your opponent, your opposite number, are you thinking that you're going to be aware of that?
No, if I'm Mayhew, I'm thinking I'm in huge trouble right now. And basically just trying to figure out how many misses you're going to need to get out of it. It seems rather innocuous, just one sitting back 8, but when you have the center guard and one back 8 and a corner guard, that's a recipe to give up a bundle.
Well, and that's the interesting thing, because to the casual observer looking at the current setup, they might not think, oh, well, that looks pretty manageable.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't look too bad. But for as you said, for the skip Mayhew and also for Thompson, who's on the offense here, you're thinking 2, 3, 4 shots ahead, and all of a sudden you're thinking, geez, this could end up being a 2 or 3 ender if you're not careful. There's
certain kind of looks that, after you've been skipping for a long time, set off alarm bells, and this is, this is common in one of them. Because at some point they're going to get this a little deeper and be buried behind the corner guard. Now, Mayhew's going to have to follow him down or possibly try some difficult double peel of the guards.
So there you see Stuart Thompson in the background, leaned over, watching this shot come into the house.
Well,
and it's going to continue to go. Now Mayhew will come over and try and drag it back, and he'll pull it back to the very back portion of that 12-foot. I'm guessing he didn't want it that deep.
No, definitely not. It's not horrendous, but I'm not sure whether he would appeal that guard or not, I guess is what I'm thinking here. I'm not... Gosh, this looks a little thick, though.
So lots of weight on that one.
Uh-oh.
Takes that yellow Thompson stone out the back, and the shooter gets a soft roll over towards that center line.
Well, the back two are basically canceled out now. I don't think they'll, unless something crazy happens with the guards, I don't think those back two will be back in play again. So Stuart's just going to try draw around these center guards simply and just make Mayhew follow him in there or double peel the guards. It's all going to depend on how deep this is. So if he's like, you may be thinking if it's dead on the tee line and buried, right, that it's good. But that's going to be too deep.
Travis Colter leans in over and now just steps right away from that rock. Now he steps back in just to give it a how you doing? And it stops maybe 1.5 feet over the hog line, almost sitting right on that center line.
Yeah, see, you can't. My guess is that there'd be something going on with the with the ice with the players of that caliber missing by that much. But and it's tough too when you're playing with 3 players. What you try to do is you match 2 rocks for yourself within the set of the 8. So now you're also throwing half a set of something that could be different than anything else that you're throwing.
Well, there's no question about it. It changed the complexion of things on many levels for the Thompson group, going from a 4-man rotation down to 3. And we see that one.
Pretty good.
Not a bad shot at all, as it'll sit just to the left of the center line in that shot, just above the 4-foot. We're in the 4th end of this 3rd draw on the men's side of things of the Deloitte Tankard. Scott Squires and Matt Paul with you. Glad to have you on board, along with our 5 TV1 crew streaming this to you. The great guys from 45 North, handling all of the technical side of things. And that shot is away, and there you see Colter again, sweeping that throw from Colten Steele. Thompson now will come out to lend a helping hand.
Well, they're pretty darn close to that guard, but I think they're going to get by, but they got to get all the way to the...
And falling there, and just able to regain his balance. A great job there by Colter to right himself, as it looked like he might spill right onto the ice and take a couple of rocks with him, but he did a little stutter step and recovered, and no harm, no foul.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to that yellow rock. I'm sure that was going to be pretty darn close to getting in the 4-foot, and something stopped it. So, I guess they know what's going on.
Well, and again, we did see a couple of instances, not only the ones I mentioned that didn't reach the hog line, but a couple of other instances where rocks just kind of seemed to almost come to, almost like they were hitting a little wall of frost.
Oh, God. Huh.
So we'll see how it goes as we and in the game we did previously, the 12 o'clock draw, women's side, it was in the later ends, like 6 and 7, where it really started to become a factor, at least from our standpoint here. So Mayhew leading by 2, trying to see if he can set himself up for a steal here in this.
Yeah, just right beside that yellow, it's pretty good, but I don't know.
So quite a traffic jam out there in front now. 3 rocks sitting in that roughly that 4-foot zone just above the top of the 12, and then you got a couple of rocks in the house, and that's what you see now. Colten Steele and Stuart Thompson really surveying the entire situation in the house right now and trying to figure out their best course of action as to how they want to attack this.
Well, there's lots of rocks left. I think they've got 3 or 4 anyway.
So that's...
Yeah, I'd like to see them do something with the guards here. I mean, I know that, gosh, you could that long yellow one back. There's a long yellow one in the center. Yeah, you can just see that into the blues, and then maybe just shake it up.
Yeah, so they just screen left. They might be looking at coming into that blue stone you see just to the left of Steele and maybe trying to run it back onto that yellow.
Just something more to. I wouldn't be too worried about running stuff into the point. The main is the stuff in front. Wow, yeah, this, I guess he's trying to.
Well, and this is always the interesting part of the curling draw. You know, it's the chess match. You see in the background Robert Mayhew. He's watching just as intently as the Thompson team is as to see what Thompson is going to do with this shot, because you know Mayhew is thinking about his next shot or two.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if this is. Yeah, I guess it is there. Well, we'll see.
Well, we're just a couple of minutes away from, even a couple of seconds away from the shot being on its way, and it's all up to fate then.
Okay, they're just.
So it's out of the hands of Colten Steele.
I think they're just tapping it up to the 4 foot, but it's really curling.
This is where we've seen some big movement before. They're going to be by that guard. No problem with that one. Now they're back into the pile. Taps off one, rubs onto the other. So one Mayhew blue out the back. The shooter kind of stays right where it is, and then that other Mayhew blue rock got moved over just a little bit and a little bit deeper, but still sitting outside the 12. Although it could be, I mean, not that it comes into play right now, but there could be just a bit of that blue rock biting on the top of that 12. So a mess of rocks in play here. Lots of options for Robert Mayhew to deal with.
Well, yeah, he's got. You don't want to do anything on the left side of the sheet because that's pretty much perfect situation there. Yeah, just the guard is the only thing I see. Guard, or you could really aggressive and come around everything, all the yellows, but you could really mess it up.
Well, having an elongated discussion here to make sure that they know exactly what they want to do, because we're getting into that stage now. We're almost at the halfway point of this draw, and this could be a pivotal end. Mayhew leading by 2. We had a blank in 1. Mayhew scored 2 in the second, a blank in 3, and that's where we are. There's your thinking time, and we talked about it earlier, and you don't think about it maybe too much now, but as the discussions go on and as the ends go on and on, that could start to become a factor later on in the broadcast and later on in the draw. We'll have to wait and see, but time ticking away as they're thinking about this one.
So it looks like they're just going with a guard and force Stuart to play an out-turn draw.
So the first of 2 here from Mayhew. Again, Thompson with the hammer here in 4. Not a whole lot of movement to that.
Yeah, they got to be...
It's by that yellow, didn't touch it at all. It comes in, and...
That's pretty darn good.
That's not bad, especially given, too, what we've been talking about with maybe some of the tricky conditions with that ice. To be able to bring that in there and to have it sit as he did, that's a pretty darn good shot. So now the chess match continues, and now Stuart Thompson, although that they must have already known what they were going to do, because that was a pretty quick discussion.
Yeah, they're just going to try and slash that yellow into the blue that's closest to center line. But I don't know. Then Mayhew just plays the exact same shot.
Team Thompson, they have been a high-scoring juggernaut through 2 draws. They've scored 17 points for. They've only given up 7 through 2 draws, averaging 8.5 points a game. So we know the Thompson team can score. But to this point, they've been kept at bay by Team Mayhew.
Well, I'd bank on them making this. Just it's going to depend on where the yellow ends up.
Well, there it is. Onto the yellow. Takes the And it sits right there. So the blue of Mayhew currently sitting shot, but that rock that just got curled in and took out that other blue Mayhew now sits second shot.
Yeah, he may have really hurt himself now, because if Mayhew does the same thing, plants it right on top, because of where that yellow one is, hammer it and get rid of everything. So he'll have to play an out-turn draw to the 4-foot.
On the other side, in terms of scoring, Team Mayhew, with their 1-1 record, even up in scoring as well. They've scored 14 through 2 draws. They've given up 14 through 2 draws with their 1-1 record. So here's Mayhew with his last throw here in this fourth end. And as you said, Matt, almost expecting to perhaps come down and follow almost that same path.
Oh, exactly. No, this is, you're looking your chops here. It's a real chance to put your,
Not
well,
touching
must
it.
be light, so they're
it's
leaving
very
it,
light.
He may have been playing that too. I don't know if he was planning to go right on it, but
so I guess what we were thinking was he might come down that same path and try and end up where that yellow one is in the top of the 8. But perhaps, given what he did there, are you looking at a situation where he might be trying to force Thompson to just take a single?
No. I mean, if you can steal, anytime you can steal too, you want to, or have a chance to steal too, you kind of want to take it. But
so
this was going to be Stuart's last shot, like regardless of what. Mayhew was going to do something on the right side of the sheet, and then really Stuart, the only thing he's going to have left was this.
So the skip, Stuart Thompson, settles in now and comes firing out of the hack with a throw in this fourth end, trailing by 2, and currently at the threat of giving up a steal to Mayhew.
This is really, really tough. A lot of haven't played a lot out here, a lot of variables.
Really working it now. Don't know if it's going to get there. It's over the 12, into the 8, touching the 4.
See?
Nice shot as he pulls the string and just does squeak it in for the single.
Well, there's an argument for one sweeper right there. It's all you need.
This could revolutionize the game, Matt.
Yeah.
Forget about brushes. It's all about a 3-person team.
I'm sure everybody's got a guy on their team they want to clip, so.
Well, a situation there again. And the other good thing about that shot, in terms of it being such a good shot from Stuart Thompson, is through that, most of that end, a lot had been played down that side.
No.
So for him to be able to read the ice down that side and to bring that kind of a draw in, that's a dandy shot right there from Stuart Thompson under pressure.
No, I'm guessing that shot, oh man, with the circumstances and everything, I mean, sure, I don't want to say he'd only make it 7 out of 10 times, but it's I'm trying to express the difficulty, not his ability type thing. And it's tough being out, especially just that little bit further out. So if you're drawn right to the button, that path's been kind of played a lot. But when you're a foot outside of that, it can start off really, really slow, weird when you're kind of kicking out of the hack, and then change. So, and a good job by the sweeper too, not going crazy and jumping it and swept it dead onto the tee line. So you can't forget that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, an excellent job by the sweeper on that one for sure. So, a great shot under pressure by Stuart, facing the potential steal from Mayhew, but he does get the single point and now cuts that lead in half. So as we play on into the fifth end here, Team Mayhew will have the hammer, and they will have a 2-1 lead. An interesting stat as well. Again, talked about it earlier, but so many folks into analytics these days, and you never know the things that can come into play later on. But through 2 draws, in terms of points stolen, for Team Mayhew, they've stolen 4, but they've given up 5 points on the steal. Team Thompson, through two draws, they have not given up a steal, and they've scored 7 steal points themselves.
Wow.
So that's something to maybe keep an eye on, because what that shows, at least through 2 draws, the statistics show that if Thompson is put in a position where he may have to steal, he has shown the ability to be able to do just that through 2 draws. 7 steal points through 2 draws, that's a pretty substantial number.
For sure. deals is, that's indicative of, Stuart making a lot of his last rocks, which isn't surprising.
Great to have you with us here. It's TV1's continuing streaming coverage of the 2017 Scotties Tournament of Hearts Deloitte Tankard. Brought to you proudly and exclusively by 5 TV1, brought to you by Bell Alliant. And Thompson, Team Thompson will curl that one well in behind the guard. And I'll tell you, not that curlers aren't locked in all of the time, but my goodness, that Robert Mayhew looks absolutely stone cold serious. He is like locked in. He is focused.
Yeah, there's so many things in between shots that he should be thinking about, most likely is, and so that's kind of where it comes from the not. You can't really take a break once the shot's stopped. You got to start thinking about the next 3 shots. You got to start, even if you can catch about what's going on the other sheets, about what they experience, things slowing down or whatever. That's always good, trying to pick out. And then you want to watch the opponent and try and see if they're throwing something poorly that day, then try to pick on it.
And there is good camaraderie. We talk about it all the time between curlers off the ice. A lot of friendships and, pops around after a draw. But, you see Robert Mayhew and his laser focus, and the same thing with Stuart Thompson. But you talked about it, when you're on the ice, how much are you perhaps trying to eavesdrop just a little bit on some of the conversations that take place? Because a lot of times you'll see the opponent standing within earshot of the other team. Are you conscious of that? You hear it, but you're not really trying to.
It's funny, and it's probably a good idea, but I think just because we play so many bloody games, that it would just be exhausting to do that all the time.
Because see, if I were curling, I'd have like the Whisper 2000.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I'd be trying to listen into everything everybody was saying.
I guess the real answer is, is it you've only got so much, time and resources kind of thing while you're playing. So would that be helpful? Sure, but it's going to cost me, time from doing other stuff, which other better things would just be timing rocks on other sheets or trying to. So if your next game is on the sheet after that, maybe just take a casual look about what's going on there, talk to the other teams.
And a pretty good shot made there by Team Mayhew as they were able to take one of those yellow Thompson rocks completely out of play and then roll the other one well off to the side. Play here in the 5th end. 2-1, Team Mayhew leading Team Thompson in this 3rd draw on the men's side in the Deloitte Tankard. Team Thompson 2-0, Mayhew 1-1. We are in the 5th end. They'll have that 5-minute 5th end break after we complete here.
Yeah, that's a big shot here, but it's looks like it's on the guard again.
And you could see there by the expression on Thompson's face as he stood upright after sweeping it that he was a bit disappointed with the result.
Huh. Little surprised he's doing this. Maybe not, yeah. I guess he's just trying to get rid of everything in the front, including the shooter.
So his call here is to go into those 2 in the front and just get them out of the way.
Yeah, I don't know. Huh.
And if that's what he wanted to do, mission accomplished as the 2 rocks that were up front.
Because Stuart's just going to come down and freeze here, yeah, or do something like he's calling here. But yeah, so I guess you're still in a really good spot here. Sorry, yeah. Just trying to figure out what he wants where he's going with this.
Opened up just a little bit in terms of space in and around that center line. Couple of guards, but they're well off to the side. One fairly high, close to the hog line. The other one a little deeper. And there you see Colten Steele with his delivery. Colten, when he's not curling, he's a commercial banking analyst.
Oh, good for him.
Lots of folks in the financial world. I could definitely get my financial world in order just by talking to some of these curlers after the draws.
Well, I don't know about that. I've seen some
I'm giving you all kinds of opportunities to build up your fellow curlers, and you're not taking one of them, Matt.
Then you don't know me. Doesn't have to be curlers. I can take it out of anybody, really.
There was a good shot moments ago of the two skips. Mayhew in the foreground watching this shot from his mate, and Thompson in the background.
Remember my skip giving me specific instructions to pull him off the blackjack table with 40 minutes before the game so he'd have time to go to the washroom and change and get out on the ice.
Well, that's good advice.
Yeah, great financial decisions there for our team. He's blowing all our team's money at the blackjack table.
I'm not touching that with a 10-foot curling brush. We are in the fifth end, just passing 5 p.m. local time here in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Glad that you're joining us here on TV1, streaming this event. Lots of curling action taking place over the next few days here from the Mayflower Curling Club. Colter, again, he's done a great job getting some of these shots from his teammates.
Yeah, it's a tricky little path down there. It's not really curling all that much, but I'm sure if you help it a bit, it'll go. But yeah, see, maybe it doesn't. This is kind of why I was a little bit worried about going to this. It's just there's not. It's difficult to hide behind that corner guard. It's so long, number one, and the positioning wasn't really all that great for him there. So it was going to probably have to be around that other corner guard, and it's a hair on the tight side of things. It's this ice itself. It's difficult to really use corner guards the way that it can be used, but like this has got to be so exact, right, to be shot.
So this is the Mayhew third, Chris MacRae, with his last throw here in this fifth end. The front end of Burdock and Gallant really working that, digging in on it. And it's going to come to rest about a foot or so above that 12-foot. And again, almost everything over on that right side of your screen.
Oh my. I don't like that if he's going to do that. But we're just saying that corner guard, it's the one on the left, it's difficult to get around that. So if Stuart tries going around it, and if he's on the tee line and 3/4 buried, that's going to be really, really bad for him. So I think that's why they've kind of moved on from that into maybe putting a rock right on the button, or you could peel the corner.
Well, he's got options. And again, to keep in mind, as Thompson gets ready to throw here, it's Robert Mayhew with the hammer in this fifth end. Just to recap the scoring for you quickly, a blank in 1, Mayhew with first, and then Thompson blanking at 3, and then Thompson with a single in end number 4, and that's where we are here as we play deep into the fifth end. Mayhew leading Thompson by a score of 2-1. So there's the first of 2 here for Thompson in this fifth end.
Guess him just throw it right on the lid, force Mayhew to hit and roll somewhere, and then his role is going to be behind the tee line, so Stuart won't be in a real high pressure spot.
You see Mayhew stepping into your frame just to take a close look, and it'll sit right where you see it, almost on the button, a little bit behind the tee line. Bring you up to date on some of the other scores taking place here in this third draw. Team McDougall has 5 on the board. They're leading Team Stevens 5-1, play in the fourth end there. Of course, in our game, it's 2 for Mayhew in the fifth end. Our other feature game taking place on TV1 is the other Thompson rink, taking on Team Murphy. Murphy with 5 again. They lead 5-1 there. And 5 seems to be a popular number in this third draw. Team Dexter leading Team Fleming by a 5-2 score, play in the fifth end of that one. That brings you up to date on all of the matches here taking place on the 4 rinks at the Mayflower Curling Club here in draw number 3. 4 sheets in play, and we're bringing you all of the action from sheets 3 and 4 here at the Mayflower all week long, right up to and including the championship.
Well, by the way they're reacting, it. Yeah. So now Stuart either wants to roll dead, buried, or it's better to roll out than it is to sit right there.
So one throw each left for the skips. Stuart Thompson will throw first, and then of course Mayhew with the hammer will throw his last.
Who knows what that draw could be doing now too? Getting a little later in the game, center of the sheet, so that's why it'd be really good to force him to play the draw.
Well, Stuart Thompson, the mechanical technologist, and if you ask me what that is, I have no clue, but he's also a good curler. This is his last throw here in this fifth end. It's a big one. If he can come up with the shot he wants here, he can put the pressure on Mayhew and have a positive vibe going into that fifth end break. Gets the hit and a little bit of a roll. Maybe not the roll that he wanted there on the back end, Matt.
You know what? That's honestly and he knows this too. It's like we were saying, I would rather see him roll out than do that. It's basically as like just a pure thrower. Now you're just coming down thinking, well, all I have to do is fall out of the hack, be close to the center line, and let it go with some sort of hit weight, and it's going to kind of make itself.
So again, a shot that I could almost do.
Well,
So the young skip of this Mayhew foursome, Robert Mayhew, student at Dalhousie University. He's an engineering student, and we'll see what he's got engineered for this final shot of this fifth end. Now he's up calling on it right away. Now both sweepers and start to go to work on it. Really working that hard as it starts to curl over just a little bit now. It's by that guard in the front. Gets the tap, runs it straight back, and they'll take the single.
Yeah, perfect throw.
So that'll take us to the fifth end break. Want to remind you to watch Inside the AUS. It gives you a weekly look at the players, coaches, and administrators that make Atlantic University sport the ultimate student-athlete experience. Inside AUS is available on demand to 5 customers in Atlantic Canada on Channel 1 and 401, as well as online at bellalliant.ca/TV1. TV1, brought to you by Bell Alliant. We'll step aside, take a break. 5 ends in the books. 3 points for Mayhew, 1 for Thompson. 3-1 after 5. We'll be back with 6th end action in about 5 minutes. We are underway in end number 6. That break between 5 and 6 goes pretty quick. Both teams have had a chance to regroup, have a beverage, talk some strategy. So a lot of times teams will break these draws down into 2 halves. Of course, 1 through 5, half 1, you take the break, halftime if you will, you come back for 6 through 10, half number 2, and if the second half is anything like the first half, it should be a very interesting and strategic end 6 through 10. Recap the scoring for you, a blank of 1, and then Team Mayhew retained the hammer in 2 and scored 2 of their own. Thompson came back and blanked 3, single in 4, and then in the 5th end, a single point from Team Mayhew brought us to where we are as we play here in the 6th end. Mayhew 3 and Thompson 1. Third draw on the men's side of the Deloitte Tankard, Team Mayhew at 1-1, Team Thompson at 2-0. So Team Thompson with the hammer here in number 6. Scott Squires and our TV1 crew, glad to have you alongside, watching wherever you are, whatever your device you're watching on, streaming on 5TV1. The fine folks from 45 North doing an awesome job, as they always do, bringing you the sights and sounds from these events, and certainly having done a number of curling events with the great folks from 45 North. They know what they're doing, and it's always a pleasure to be on the mic when the scene's making my job easy. So start here to this 6th end. Both of these teams have shown a willingness to throw caution to the wind and to just put rocks in play and let the rocks fall where they may, if you will. And had a spectator fill us in on a little bit of information about Team Thompson playing with their 3 players. Apparently that's the scenario that they've been dealing with all week long, having to play with just a 3-man rotation. And without getting into the details, basically it came down to a registration or a clerical error, if you will, when tournament. And because of that situation and their lead not being available, they've had to come into this event and play with 3 players all tournament long, and that's the way they started it. That's the way they'll finish it. And they knew that that was the rule coming in, so that's the situation for Team Thompson, as they will have to abide by those hard and fast rules and play with a 3-person rotation for the duration of this Deloitte Tankard. But they fared well, 2-0 through the first 2 draws. They've been scoring lots of points, 17 points on the board through their first 2 draws. Stealing points, not giving up any steals through those first 2 as well. So lots to be decided here in this one. And this shot from the Mayhew foursome is going to go right by everybody and sail through the house. So a miss there from the Mayhew foursome. Just making some announcements in-house here. Not sure if you can hear those or not, just to let you know that that's what's going on. The shot from Thompson again, just to Fisher out front. Thompson yelling out his instruction to his front end. That one will float into the house and rest in the 8-foot just above that tee line.
I started the car again.
This is the 3rd draw on the men's side, and basically what they've been doing for the round robin is alternating draws. So the women's draw first, then the men's draw. So we had the women's draw at noon, and that was draw 3. So draw 3 for the men at 4 o'clock. As we see that nose hit, drives right back onto that other blue Mayhew. So just the 1 guard sitting at the top of that 4-foot zone, above the 12-foot, just off to one side of the center line. And then the 2 rocks that you just saw there in play. And currently, it's early in the end, but it's currently Mayhew blue sitting 1. Team Thompson get ready with their throw here. Remind you as well, you can certainly join the conversation on social media, especially on Twitter. Send out your tweets to us, hashtag NSGirls. As well, for Bell Let's Talk Day, which is today, use the hashtag Bell Let's Talk, and Bell will donate 5 cents to the cause of mental illness and helping to end the stigma surrounding it.
Even if we make it perfect, he can still get it. It was such a high guard, it was curling so much. Yep. Big ball.
You do know that.
Well, Mayhew certainly got a decision to make here. It's a pretty poor start to the end, but it's kind of just one of those things you want to draw on there, kind of force the issue a little bit, or just straight peel the guard here.
So typically, we talked about the break that takes place, the halfway point, if you will.
Yes, the annoying thing in curling, yeah.
Typically, what are are you talking strategy, or are you just taking a breather?
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, the question's a good one, though. There's not maybe a little bit about stuff going forward. You certainly don't really want to talk about stuff that happened during the game. It's it's going to be a sore spot for any skip to start going back and second guessing calls that happened in the first half of the game. But no, it's really just give the front end guys a chance to get some water into them. That's certainly.
I'd be curious how much of the discussion may have surrounded the ice conditions and what they may do to try to combat that in the second half of this draw.
I'm sure the front end, in this case the front end player, should have some sort of an idea anyway. Should have been thinking about it all game, which he, obviously he would have been. You should be, your ears go up around the 6th end, 7th end. 7th end, there's going to be, that's kind of the cutoff mark that on 99% of surfaces, you're going to get a pretty decent change in 7 and 8.
Well, we do play on here in this 6th end. Mayhew, as mentioned, leading a tight scoring affair so far. 3-1, Mayhew leading. Mayhew with a deuce in 2 and a single in 5, and Thompson with a single in 4. And that's the bulk of the scoring right there. And that one basically clears pretty much everything out of Dodge. We're just waiting to see where that yellow rock ends up, and it will hang biting on just maybe about an eighth of that stone in the 12-foot. But some house cleaning done right there with that throw.
Yeah, no kidding, that was moving. Okay, well, Stuart's going to go back around this this blue guard. He'll be second shot, but it's not really relevant at this point. He'll be second and third. That's really all he wants.
This rock well off to the side over in an area of the sheet that really hasn't been played a whole lot. And it curls over quite a bit toward the end. Stuart comes in to give a brush at the end, and it sits right there on the tee line.
It's
Mostly
great throw,
in the
yeah, great throw, just a difficult shot. It's historically here, it's middle of the 12. If you put the broom in the middle of the 12 foot, you'll get the curl that's here. But if you go as far out as edge of the 12, outside edge, then you're going to get a long period of straightness before the curl.
It was interesting. I know that we were talking about the ice earlier with Carly Jones, and she referred to maritime ice, and apparently that's such a thing.
Yeah, okay.
Maritime ice, I guess, has somewhat of a reputation of running a little bit straighter, perhaps, than ice curling sheets elsewhere.
Yeah, it's more. Yeah, it's tough without knowing each individual situation, kind of thing. My guess is that, with the general technology and everything that's out there for ice making, and is known in the eastern part of Canada, the ice probably isn't bad. It's more of a rock issue. Rocks are expensive, and it's a lot of maintenance you have to do to keep them curling all the time.
Gets the hit, there's the roll, and it'll come over, and I thought it might kiss off of that yellow, but it kind of right where you see it, almost full 4-foot at the back of the tee line. So right now, with a couple of rocks yet to come, it's Team Mayhew sitting 2.
Yeah, Mayhew's sitting 2, but Stuart's got to be feeling pretty good. This is exactly what he wants to score 2. He's just got to get in there and get shot somehow, and he'll have something to continue on the way to 2 anyway, hopefully.
6th end action here. Draw 3 at the Deloitte Tankard. Thompson and their threesome coming in at 2-0. Mayhew 1-1. Team Mayhew, Robert Mayhew, Chris MacRae, Neil Gallant, and Nick Burdock. Alan Mayhew is their coach. And Team Thompson, Stuart Thompson, Colten Steele, Travis Colter, and Mark Dacey. A pretty familiar name in curling, especially in Nova Scotia, is their coach. So Stuart Thompson will settle in. And again, I say it all the time, but I enjoy watching each of the curlers as they settle in. And I've already has this little, whether it's a trigger or a comfort thing, where he kind of does a gentle roll, a spin of that rock when he's getting settled into the hack. His throw is away here in this 6th end. Thompson does have the hammer here. Brusher not tugging at all. Thompson following it the entire way down, calling instructions out the entire way. Colter, as he's done all draw long, a great job of brushing.
Wow.
And that's going to nestle right in there, that little trifecta of rocks. So not a bad situation there for Stuart.
Gosh, no, he's making everything just perfect. Jeez. I don't even know it. Mayhew's got a freeze. I really don't see much else.
Well, now a little bit of discussion between Robert Mayhew front end about exactly what he wants to do now as we are into skip stones here in the sixth end.
So what Mayhew's going to have to do is just put it right where he's putting that. Continues to tap his broom, and make Stuart try to draw the piece of the button for two.
It's kind of a neat little fact as well in terms of statistics, and you never know what may come into play in the later ends. But through the first two draws, Team Thompson, they've stolen 5 ends, and they have not given up a steal. Whereas on the Mayhew foursome are even up. They've stolen 3 ends themselves, but they've given up 3 steals. And again, little statistics with things that you wonder how they may come into play. And from the Thompson side, having stolen 5 ends through 2 draws, that's going to give them a little bit of confidence should they need to go out and make a steal.
Yeah, no, for sure. Big thing there is just getting those ends where your team makes 7 out of 8 shots, 6 out of 8 shots, 8 out of 8 shots, even if it can happen. Just those are the real confidence boosters, and it gives everybody it gives the skip a mental break. Guys are just making shots. You're not constantly trying to figure things out, and it just relaxes the whole team. So
you had a look at what Robert Mayhew was looking at. What do you think his call is here? What's his best play?
Best play is just freeze. If you miss it short. As in essence, what he's trying to do is to make Stuart's button as difficult as possible. Now, if you can get really lucky and freeze and be shot, well, that'd be golden. But we're talking within, an inch.
Well, the shot is out of Mayhew's hand. It's his last here in this sixth end. 1 left to come, and that'll come from Thompson. But first things first, let's see where this offering from Mayhew ends up. Brushing it hard. Now it's across the 12 into the 8, and it's going to freeze right up and just tap ever so gently that Yellowstone back. And now quite a pass right around that 4-foot.
Yeah, that had to be about 8 inches to the left. Maybe even a little bit more. Great weight though, geez, bang on.
Very good weight.
Just that stuff in the center that you can get a ton of curl there.
So it comes down to this.
He should be able to get away with throwing it exactly the same as he did his last one. So in terms of weight, I don't think there's any issues here.
I'm going to call that the Thompson twirl.
I'm sure you'd rather you didn't.
He's out of the hack, and it's out of his hand. The single sweeper on the rock, and now it's just a matter of where this one ends up. Thompson trailing by 2 with the hammer in this sixth end. Trying to draw this in against a mess of stone. 4-foot. Steele and Colter both working on it hard. Can they drag it there? And that pretty much out of your mouth is absolutely right. That is as close to perfection as you can get. And it does indeed look to be 2.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, indeed it is. So Stuart Thompson does the job he has to do with the hammer. He puts a crooked number up. He gets 2 on the board, and he ties this one up 3-3. So a razor-thin margin between these two teams in terms of back and forth and points. Again, a quick recap of the scoring through 6 ends. A blank in 1. Mayhew with 2 in the second. Blank in 3. Thompson answered back with 1 and 4. Mayhew in a single in 5. And as you just saw, an absolutely beautiful draw in against several rocks to score 2 for Stuart Thompson. And we are back to even up 3-all here as we play in end number 7. And the hammer now belongs to Robert Mayhew and his foursome.
Well, I'm assuming he's still going to throw a guard here. We'll see where he tapped. Now tied without, you still got a long ways to feel like you're in control anyway.
Thompson now comes out to put a brush down and help this one out. See how deep he can drag it in as it comes over toward that center line. And it'll sit right there as a center line guard, about 3-4 feet above the top of that 12. Happy to have you with us. Our continuing coverage on TV1 as we're streaming all of the draws from sheets 3 and 4 here at the Mayflower Curling Club for the 2017 Scotties Tournament of Hearts for the women and the Deloitte Tankard for the men. This is men's action draw number 3. Team Mayhew and Team Thompson. 3-3 after 6 ends.
Well, you can. It's not good. It makes the level up top, but back to 2. I almost fell on it. I should have reset. I would have no
You can
idea.
hear some of the conversation taking place at ice level.
Yeah.
And if an expletive or two happens to
God love them.
should be forewarned now. It is live, and that can happen.
Yeah, I've had my mic turned off on occasion, involuntarily. Well, geez.
So Thompson, again, comes out to help out and will pull that one back to right where you see it, about halfway between the 4 and the 8 and above the T line.
You get worried when stuff like this starts happening. Like that's, perfect weight. It didn't look like it did anything poorly at the throw. This, the bit of the ice changing, like as you were alluding to earlier.
Well, definitely a cat and mouse back and forth here between these two teams. Mayhew wanting to take their record to 2-1. Thompson looking to stay undefeated and go to 3-0. Gets that one just a bit of an angle, and the shooter rolls out, as does the yellow Thompson stone. Now they're taking a quick look at it. I guess that blue rock is just hanging around well off to the side. And stranger things have happened. I've seen rocks like that you think are not going to ever become part of the play, all of a sudden play a factor later on in an end.
For sure. Yeah, it was a pretty big miss. It doesn't change Stuart's shot any. I'm pretty sure he still would have been going around the center guard, considering the scoreboard. But
Thompson
just not getting that finish that they were getting anymore, or they're getting earlier. Mostly buried, but a little deep.
So it sits right there on the button, and Mayhew immediately steps in and over top of that rock. Call for the shot.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty. It's just personal preference thing. It's a little conservative for me, but it's a horrible barometer of anything.
So Neil Gallant takes that one out on the guard out front.
So the guard was a little long. It was pretty easy to just straight weld one on the one that's on the button. And then if you're sitting third shot on the side, second shot frozen on top of the Yellowstone, it's a pretty good spot to be in.
Colten Steele with his throw here. Travis Colter, the lone man on the sweeping duties. Thompson with a watchful eye from the house.
That's another thing too that certain people can't really appreciate unless you play a lot, is that just throwing those single guards accurately it's a lot tougher than you think, and depending on the ice surface, it can make it tougher. But
what's the old saying? If it would do it.
Yeah.
There's a reason I'm up here and not down there.
It's kind of difficult sometimes if it's a little bit of a unique spot to figure out where to put the broom. Actually, you're drawn to into the house so often. It's a different length shot by get 10 feet, 15 feet.
So this end kind of just has a meandering feel to it, not a whole lot going on. That can change in a heartbeat with one shot, as we know, but right now just kind of feels like there's not a whole lot going on, just kind of shot, shot, shot. course, both teams are going to be ultra careful as we play in the 7th end with a 3-3 tie. The slightest little error could tip the balance completely the other way for your opponent. So
you know what? Even a blank end does it too. That's why Stuart's not hitting that thing on the side there. That's wide open. Mayhew happens. They've got the hammer in 8 and 10.
So this one will sit quite deep, back part of that 12-foot. Action going on. We'll bring you up to date shortly on the games going on the other sheets here. Our game 3-3 as mentioned. It's a tight one between Thompson and Mayhew.
Yeah, looks like a little dissension. Excellent.
And how often can you see that happen? I guess I know it depends on the, because sometimes skips, it's dictatorship and their word goes.
Yeah.
Others, they take a little bit of consultation, and then you'll see other skips who it's all about. Let's get the consultation. Let's get everybody weighing in on this. What kind of style do you like from a skip?
For me, it's a lot of it kind of has to do with preparation and guys knowing what to expect, and it generally takes some time to build that kind of thing. You're crazy if you don't take input from guys who've been playing 20 years type thing. But I guess you do have to have a point where you let the guys know, all right, I've heard you. Now I gotta kind of do my job, kind of thing. And so, and then they know to leave. So, and it generally works. If the front end guys come down, we'll all have a chat. We hear what they have to say, and then the skip will have some sort of a cue with them to say, all right, get the heck out of here.
Looks like Team Mayhew, the foursome, they couldn't come to a meeting of the minds, so they've called in a fifth voice.
An older mind, all right. Well, I mean, by the way they're going here, yellow must be shot.
So that would be their coach, Alan Mayhew. I'm just going to go out on a limb and guess that would be Robert's dad. Bring you up to speed on other scores here while Team Mayhew discusses this shot here in the 7th end. It's all over on sheet 1. Team McDougall, offensive explosion as they defeat Team Stevens by a score of 10-1. Handshakes after the 5th end in that one. Of course, our game here in the 7th end, 3-3. Handshakes on our other game as well, our other feature game on TV1. Team Thompson defeating Team Murphy defeating Team Thompson by a score of 1. Handshakes after the 6th end there. And the only other game still currently going on is on sheet 4. It's Team Dexter with a fairly comfortable 6-2 lead in the 6th end over Team Fleming. And you're up to date on all the scores here in this third draw. So two draws already in your handshakes.
That's surprising. I thought actually all of them were going to be close today, but.
So the only action on TV1 right now is right here where you are with us. It's sheet 3 in the building, sheet 2 on the score pad, because they do have one ice taken out of play here at the Mayflower for seating. So just to allay any confusion about that. Sheet 3 in the building, but if you're looking at the Nova Scotia live scoreboard, it's actually showing as sheet 2.
Oh boy.
This one down, and it looks like they're going to come over and take out their own, so tough result there for Team Thompson.
Well, it looks
not horrible.
Makes Mayhew's call look brilliant. Yeah, it's. I mean, those guys know that's a pretty significant miss. It's pretty important. They were looking at. They were going to force him to 1 in the 7th end. Therefore, they'd have the hammer in the 8th, down 1, with 3 to play, which is a really good spot to be, all things considered. Now this end is most likely going to be blanked, and so Mayhew's going to have the hammer for 8 and 10 in the game tied. pretty. Yeah, see, that's why he's smacking his broom there. It's a pretty. He knows it was a pretty big miss. That.
Yeah.
You know, I'd bet $1 million that he never would have missed.
And you know, we talk about moments ago, just as you get into the late stages of a tie game and a tight game like this, how just one error
can
take the pendulum and swing it right back the other way toward your opponent. And we'll see now if Mayhew can really take advantage of that miss. And as you see Thompson here with his first of 2 throws in this 7th end. But, you know, it's interesting to hear you talk about that because that's exactly what skips are doing. They're looking, okay, do this here, then I get the hammer in 8. Then I got if this plays out. You're always looking. It's so much like chess. You're looking not only a couple of shots ahead, but you're trying to plan out what might happen in the next couple of ends. And now, as we're in the late stages, you can actually try to map out anyway what's going to take you right to the 10th end.
Yeah, it's going to do now, just sort of reassessing things. You know, you got to forget about the miss. You know, just like in any sport, you got to have a short memory. You can't sit there and dwell on it unless it was a. You know, you can certainly talk about it if you think it was an ice issue, but if you just threw it bad, you know, flush the memory and then go on to the next end here. You're going into the 8th tied without the hammer, which isn't perfect, but.
So this first of 2 throws from Mayhew here. Mayhew does have the hammer in the 7th end. And that will hang around, just nibbling on the, well, maybe from that angle, a little more than a nibble. Regardless, it is into the back portion of that 12-foot.
I've actually seen guys freeze in this situation.
Well, as I saw that rock hang around and stay in the house, I thought to myself, does that potentially give Thompson an opportunity here to try and force the hand of Mayhew? Colter with the jacket back on now. He'll just step away from that one and crash, bang, boom. Out goes the blue Mayhew and the shooter out as well. So that leaves wide open spaces here for Robert Mayhew for his last rock here in this 7th end. And again, I always like to be self-deprecating when I can. Shot that I could make.
Yeah, I think so.
Last rock.
Practiced it a couple times.
Nothing in anywhere, and just I got to miss everything.
Yeah. Well, you got to get it to the other end.
Okay, so that maybe not 100% I'd make it. Well, that miss a few rocks ago plays into the hands of Robert Mayhew as he's able to take that in now. And while nothing guaranteed, as you said, if you can take a hammer into the 8th end of a tie game, then you can potentially set yourself up pretty well into the final couple of ends. So we'll see what's in store here now as we move to end number 8. I want to remind you to join myself and Sonny as we chat about TV1 Sports on the Sideline Scoop. Each Monday at 8:40 Atlantic, 9:10 Newfoundland time. You can get up to date on 5 TV1's local sports coverage with myself and Cyril. That's the Sideline Scoop, Mondays on CTV Morning Live Atlantic. I hope you'll be watching me Monday morning, Matt. Cup of coffee and turn on CTV Morning Live.
Yeah, that's right up there on my list.
Good. I'll make sure that I say a special hello to you. I'll get Cyril to wave at you as well.
Oh, that's disturbing.
So we move now to end number 8. And that's our 3rd blanked end. We've had blanks in 1, 3, and 7. So it's been all about the odd numbered ends being blanked here. And if that stays true to form, we should see some scoring. We've had scoring in the 2nd, 4th, and 6th. So we'll see if we can get some points on the board here in end number 8 of this tie draw between Team Thompson, skipped by Stuart Thompson, and Team Mayhew, skipped by Robert Mayhew. Scott Squires along with Matt Paul. Glad to be bringing you this action on sheet 3, draw number 3 from the Mayflower Curling Club. It's the Deloitte. Our TV1 crew along with the technical production from 45 North, bringing you all of the action all week long from the Scotties Tournament of Hearts and the Deloitte Tankard on sheets 3 and 4. And we'll be here right up to and including the championship games on Sunday.
Well, this, I mean, I've never been a huge fan of this drawing to the side of the rings thing, but, you're going to get an idea what Stuart feels here. Yeah, he's going to go around the center guard. He could hit the one on the outside, but that's kind of just making the decision immediately that you're going to try to go for some sort of blank, and then, force him to have the hammer in 9, and then you get it back for 10 in theory. But, the right thing is what he's doing, I think, here is just to, you got to go pretty all out here.
Well, this brings us back to the statistic that I talked about earlier as we get into the late stages here. Again, I think it is worth mentioning that in terms of steal points,
yeah, that's right.
Team Thompson, through 2 draws, have stolen 7 points against giving up none. So if there's a team, I think, through 2 draws that would be up to the task of stealing, it's this Stuart Thompson rank.
And Stuart's, thrown, I think it's 3 or 4 draws to the lid at this point in the game. So certainly no fear if the ice stays the same, which is
that's the big variable, right?
Yeah, he throws a couple great draws, get to 8, and it's nothing at all like it was.
So we see this rock from Mayhew, well outside and by those couple of yellow Thompson guards, and it'll go about halfway between the 8 and the 12, 4 foot, and back behind that tee line.
Well, Stuart's all in now for sure. He's got a good situation here.
So Stuart Thompson has shown a great ability to be comfortable with the steal. We mentioned the points as well. I know we mentioned it earlier, but again, worth mentioning at this point of the game. Through 2 draws, the Stuart Thompson team have stolen 5 ends against giving up none. So they're comfortable with the strategy needed and the shot making needed to come up with a steal, and that would certainly make things interesting should they be able to put here in 8.
Yeah, it's that's why the strategy is kind of right to go after him with it, because it just changes your odds of winning will up significantly if you can somehow steal a point. So therefore it's really worth going after them here. Only 3 ends left. If you give up 10, well, whatever.
And you know that is going to be well aware of that, and he's going to try and counteract that. What is the best strategy to counteract it when you know, as you said, that your opponent is going all in and is going for the steal?
It's make the easy shots like this here, and that's a great question, because it's guys think about the fancy shots too often. It's about making simple peels, any damage that can go wrong. But it's when you start to play that defensive way and then you have a bad miss, then things compound very quickly.
So be aware of what your opponent's doing, know their strategy, but don't get caught up in it and just stick to your...
Oh, yeah, just make easy shots. That's really what it is. And you know what? Also kind of got to keep that check on your skip, too. But, a bunch of rocks in play, might get on a bad line of thinking or whatever. Not the time where you want a bad call or everybody wishing after the game that they could have changed it type deal.
Colten Steele with the throw, and Travis Colter on the sweep. And this one, for a second there, I thought it was going to die just in front of that hog line, but it does just creep over and sits as a very long guard. So getting into the latter stages of this 8th end, a 3-3 tie. Mayhew with the last rock. There's 1, there's 2, and that certainly opens up things down the middle. Thompson certainly would appear to be tipping toward the aggressive side here in this 8th end and trying to set himself up for a steal.
He's just going to put a guard in there, and he wants it kind of on the edge of that really high blue one type thing. So when Mayhew goes to peel this guard, they kind of want that high blue one in the guy's head.
And the little push out of the hands of Colten Steele. Travis leaning in hard, rushing this one, coming down the other side of the sheet. starts to curl now as it pulls over and will come to rest just on your screen left side of that center line, about 3 feet above that 12. So now you really see the skips thinking about it, and you see right there Mayhew again having conversation with his front end. We saw a couple of ends ago where they were debating a shot and they actually had to call their coach in to help them make the decision. I'm sure that Mayhew and his foursome are well aware that, yes, it's only the third draw of this tournament, but if you fall to 1 and 2, you're putting yourself in a pretty dicey situation walking that tightrope.
Oh, and it's, I was saying earlier, the feeling of going home after, when you're 2 and 1 is a heck of a lot different from 1 and 2.
And I'm not sure if they might have been trying to run that one back onto that yellow guard just to the side of the center line, but what they end up doing is taking their own stone off of the center area, and the shooter rolls well off to the side. So not sure if that's the result that Mayhew wanted on that delivery.
Yeah, that was the shot he called. It was just extremely difficult. And the risk of it, leaves you in a really, really bad spot. The risk of missing it leaves you in a really bad spot. Stuart's going to stink another one in there, frozen right on top of his own, and if the angle's right, you won't even be able to get him out of there with a run back.
So one of the most stealing proficient teams through 2 draws, Team Thompson, looking to work their steal magic once again here in this 8th end of draw number 3.
Silver curling.
Yeah, it's a move now as it comes over that center line, and it's just going to kiss up against their own rock and push it back just a little bit deeper. We are in the 8th end of this 3rd draw. Quick recap of the scoring. A blank in 1, Mayhew with 2 in the 2nd. Blank in 3, Thompson 1 in the 4th, Mayhew 1 in the 5th. Thompson put a deuce up in 6, a blank in 7, and here we are in end number 8. Nothing yet decided, with still quite a few stones left to come here. Thompson certainly seems to be trying to set up the steal here, put the aggressive shoes on, if you will. Right down Broadway, there's 1, there's 2. Pushes them all around in the back of the house, and what you're left with is the one rock that you see sitting back of that 4-foot, which is shot, the one blue Mayhew off to the side, and then a couple of very deep corner guards just upper screen left. So discussion time now for Stuart Thompson. And
well, I'm glad he went
Steele
over there right away, and just called this because it's over kind of thing. His steal that he was manufacturing, that the shot was good enough to change change the advantage. So he's just going to nose this one on the outside and force him to take one.
And there's a good look at what's happening in the house, and that's facing skip Stuart Thompson as he settles in for his first of 2 throws here in end number 8.
It's good to get him to throw another open hit too.
Steele really calling on Colter, and now the roll over, and that's going to sit right where you see it there. So a couple of Thompson rocks sitting in the 4-foot. So if you're Mayhew and you see what you see, what are you discussing right now? What are you looking? Is there?
Gosh. I guess you could just drill it and then stay in the house. But then, Stuart can make a hit and roll anywhere kind of thing. You could freeze or just tap it a couple of inches. You just better make it decent. You could come down with just some quiet weight kind of thing and tap it on the nose, leave everything in play, just sit right there. Or the only danger with this, and it's probably the shot I play too, though, it's if the shooter rolls out, the 2 and the 4 foot and the shooter. It's kind of good for. It's pretty good for Stuart. But it just might just be the situation you're in, kind of thing.
So Mayhew, again, has the hammer here in 8, looking to set himself up and to potentially have it so that he would have the hammer in a very important 10th end. He's got the line. There's the hit, and he does what he had to do. He spills the 2 yellow Thompson rocks out of the back of the house, and his shooter rolls over and stays behind that tee line in the 8 foot. So now we've been asking what Mayhew was going to do his last couple of throws for his side. Let's switch it over now to Thompson. We know what Thompson was trying to do for this entire end. He was trying to set himself up, be aggressive, get the steal. Basically, just saw with that Thompson shot. What's the play here for Thompson?
Just hit and roll behind the nearest guard, and but you're not playing it in terms of you're not thinking you're going to steal. You're just thinking that you want to be buried enough to force him to draw, and then he'll make the draw for one. So he's resigned himself to the fact that he's not stealing. So now it's limit the damage or potential damage. And force him to one is the big thing. So in order to force him to one, he's got to hit and roll behind some cover here.
So not even putting a brush to it. It's got plenty of weight. Now it's about the line. And the line is wanted. So now, do you open draw for one or do you blank?
No, you blank it. Because the thought process behind it is you blank 8 and you go for your deuce and 9. And up 2 coming home without is still a great spot. And you still win a giant number of those games.
Well, Mayhew, again, I'll call this the Scott shot. This is one that I could probably make most days.
Yes, you could.
Right through the house, he blanks the end. And, you never know what 2 ends blanked back to back. Mayhew will carry the hammer over into 9. But coming into this game, between the 2 teams, through 2 draws each, both teams had combined for 4 blank ends total between the 2 of them. So 4 draws total. We're already up to 1, 3. We're already up to 4 blank ends in this draw alone. So you never know one draw to the next, how it's going to play out, what's going to happen.
And there are ends these days with the guys being able to throw the big weight that, for the first half of the end, don't look anything like it's going to be a blank end. And then, the onslaught of takeouts, it ends up being a blank end.
Well, and for the better part of that end, it really seemed that Thompson was setting himself up and putting himself in good position to get a steal.
No, just one miss on that when they were trying to come around their own and left it up there for, put the 2 fairly close together and able to run it back into the house. That ends it.
Just a quick update on the only other game taking place. It's over on sheet 5 here at the Mayflower, sheet 4 if you're looking at the scoring online. It's Team Dexter comfortably in front now, the lead 8-3 over Team Fleming as they play in the 8th end. So again, anything can happen, but it would appear that Team Dexter looking pretty good in that one for their 3rd draw. We've already had handshakes in the other 2 draws here. Team McDougall defeating Team Stevens, and Murphy defeating the other Thompson foursome here. And of course, our feature game, the only other game currently live on TV1, is the one before your very eyes. It's Team Mayhew, Team Thompson. 3-all here in a very, very hotly contested draw. Both teams have had their opportunities, have scored points and taken advantage of miscues of the other. The other teams have provided miscue opportunities to their opponent. And again, it's been a really, really tight game. 4 blank ends through the first 8. Play here in 9. Team Mayhew once again with the hammer that they've had now, 3rd consecutive end. So based on your comment at the end of that last end when Mayhew did blank, the expectation would be here for Robert Mayhew to go for it here and to see if he can put a couple on the board.
Yeah, kind of a caution. sport kind of thing. It's you certainly don't do anything with any amount of risk or anything. But if in these situations anyway, a deuce kind of just falls in your lap sometimes, a half shot that they miss or what have you, and then if the opportunity's there for a free deuce kind of thing, go ahead and take it.
And it looks like we do have handshakes on that other game we were talking about. So Team Dexter does indeed hang on for that victory over Team Fleming. So only one game left, and it's the one that's being streamed on TV1. And we're so glad to have you with us, wherever you're watching. Just a little kiss off of that yellow rock, and there's your situation. Just a few rocks into this pivotal ninth end.
It's a good spot for it, though, if you're going to miss. I mean, you'd rather have your players miss a couple feet, in this situation, a couple feet light, rather than a couple feet heavy. Heavy's nothing you can really do with that. It does nothing but help your opposition. Because Stuart's going to have to go in here now, try to draw top four, and that blue one will be the next shot. It'll either be tapped or raised in. So see how it works out.
And again, we talked about it a fair amount off the top, but if you are just joining us or just tuning in and you're wondering, gosh, does Team Thompson seem to be a man down, and why are they only using one sweeper? Team Thompson, for some clerical issues and registration issues prior to the event, only have 3 members of the team. So it's Travis Colter, Colten, Steele, and the skip Stuart Thompson. A 3-person rotation for the duration of this event, and at this point, they've fared pretty darn well. Perhaps, as we mentioned,
yeah, no kidding,
half jokingly, but you never know. Maybe they could come up with a 3-on-3 league of curling. But they have fared well. They've come into this third draw undefeated at 2-0, racking up a lot of points, 17 in total through the first 2 draws. And they're playing pretty much even up here with Team as we're in the ninth end. Mayhew with the hammer, but it's a 3-3 draw.
Yeah, I do find it a little strange that, I've never heard of a clerical error resulting in somebody, not being able to field a full team at an event. It's, especially your favorite to probably, arguably the favorite to win this thing. And I just can't picture Glenn Howard's team having a clerical error and then the Ontario Curling Association kicking out Glenn, let him making Glenn Howard play with 3, or any of the other big names in any of the other provinces.
Well, the interesting thing, again, we don't have all of the information, but from what we were told from some of the certainly folks here in attendance that are a little bit in the know, is that whatever the situation was, that Stuart Thompson and his team were aware of it, and they did acknowledge that it was their error, and they did abide by the rules that are in place, and they're here playing with 3.
Yeah,
and I was going to offer myself as a 4th, but I told them what my specialty was. I said, no, we don't need that on a regular basis.
Funny, there's a lot of what you got out there amongst players.
So we see this end play on, and it's starting to shape up now to be an interesting one. Few rocks in play, although this one could clear out a little bit of that clutter around the middle. Angles on that yellow. The yellow goes out, the shooter rolls out, and you're left with what you see right there in terms of the house. A couple of on the outer portion of the 12-foot, and then that one yellow stone sitting behind the tee line, pretty much full 4.
Man, that blue one in the center is bugging me. It's I don't know if there's anything else he can call besides this, but it'd be tempting to make a hit and roll, but it's got to be perfect. And we'll see. I mean, the ideal here would be buried, and then I suppose dead even with the blue one, but
well, it'll stop.
Yeah, see, that's about as good as you can do with it. Just depends on when Mr. Mayhew wants to use that blue one. I was going to say, it might be worth playing a straight run back once. You pray, you just don't jam it onto the blue, and then it hands. If that's the case, then there's an exit by the number 1 sheet there.
So Mayhew down, spotting the broom for this delivery from Chris MacRae.
Uh-oh.
And I'm fairly certain that's perhaps not what they wanted.
Well, you know.
Maybe.
No, it's
And it's funny, you could almost, I mean, I heard your reaction, you could almost see it on the ice. They almost knew right away what the result was going to be. So that definitely changes the complexion of this end considerably. Nothing out front at all in the way of a guard. And we've just got a couple of rocks in the house right now.
Yeah, really interesting. It's gosh, if Stuart just misses one of these guards by like a half a stone, then he's looking at giving up 2 and being in a really difficult spot to try and win. So that's why they're going yelling so loud about this one.
So it stops right there, off to the side of the center, and there you see it, not quite mid-range in that guard area, out above the rings. So Mayhew down, calling for the shot. This will be Chris MacRae's second throw here. He did not like the result of the first one. So you talked about it. You got to have a short. He's already forgotten that one, and now a chance to make a big shot here for the Mayhew team. This is one of those shots
that's it's certainly got some difficulty to it, but it's what good players have to make kind of thing. So it's extremely common, half open one with board weightish kind of thing.
They are really digging into the sweeping on this, getting it by the guard, taps on the yellow, drives it back, and rolls over. And that just did squeak by that guard.
Great throw. Gosh.
And a great job by MacRae. Not happy with his first throw. Gets amnesia real quick, forgets about it, and delivers a real nice rock. And, I mean, he did just squeak it by that guard, too. Razor thin margin there. But that's all that matters. He got it by.
So Stuart's going to try and roll behind the center.
So we are into skip stones now. First of 2 here for Thompson. And then Mayhew will deliver his first in a moment. Again, Mayhew, after the last 2 blank ends, still has the hammer in this 3-3 tie.
Looks like a nose.
And it is indeed right on the nose. Drives the blue one out the back, and the yellow shooter from Thompson will sit right where you see it.
Yeah, maybe you should be kind of licking his chops here. Just, it's fairly evident what that path does. At worst, he can roll too far, roll far away from it kind of thing, but give it a chance so he can throw board with not a ton of ice and, let his sweepers kind of try and hold it there. It's kind of one of those ones that you really think you can make the roll on kind of thing. And again, at worst, roll the thing right away to the side.
So young Mr. Mayhew settles into the hack for his first of 2 throws here in this important 9th end. Now they call for the sweeping once again.
Whoa. All right.
And it is on the nose, kind of trading places. The blue sits just a little bit higher than the yellow that it replaced.
Yeah, that was the good plan B with it, that now Stuart can't nose that and be shot. So if he wants to hit something, he's going to give up 2. That's the only other option because you have to be shot.
So you see Thompson talking it over with his third, Colten Steele. So what options is he weighing here?
Draw around the yellow. You can play intern draw around that yellow guard. Take it deep kind of thing. hopefully, trying to get him to, trying to force the one. You could maybe hit and roll off that thing on the side, but, the odds of making that are, 3 out of 10 times maybe.
Well, he's still looking back, but it looks like he's made his choice.
Here's the deal. I mean, if you don't make a hit and roll, you're down 2 coming home. You're still in the game kind of thing. If you miss the in-turn draw around that yellow guard, then the game's over. It's 3. But I don't know. This is one of those things, correct, really. It's what we feel like playing.
And again, there hasn't been a whole lot played down this side of the sheet here. So Stuart Thompson with his final throw, pretty much the game could lie in the result of this final stone. Thompson here in like number 9.
Yeah, that's.
So he does indeed hit it on the nose. As you can see, that blue stone at the top, sitting shot. So not a simple shot, but probably if you're Robert Mayhew, bad option here to make this shot to score 2.
No, yeah, everything's it's got a bunch of good things about it. It's a hair further out, so at this point in the game, it's probably better ice out there. It's that stuff in the middle that can catch you and really slow down your shot. Yeah, no real trouble or anything, so it should be money in the bank for him.
That gaze from Mayhew, I keep waiting for laser beams to shoot out of those 2 eyes as he's watching his shot go down the ice. Just laser focus from the young skip.
Well, that would impress me.
That would be a first for TV1. Looks good, weight's good, and the result is good for Team Mayhew, as after a couple of blanks, they finally get what they want, and that's points, and it's a deuce, so a crooked number on the board for Team Mayhew. They'll bring it home now into the 10th end. The hammer does go to Thompson, but it's a 2-point advantage for Team Mayhew over Team Thompson. 5-3 in the 10th end, and guessing his strategy now for Mayhew is simply run Thompson out of rocks.
Yeah, for sure.
This has been an excellent curl, very strategic. Both teams basically going toe-to-toe, exchanging shot for shot. They've both had miscues. They've both made some good shots. And full value to both of these teams for putting on a real good show here on TV1. So glad to be able to bring it to you. I want to remind you to visit bellalliant.ca/TV1 for the 5 TV1 Live webcast schedule, as well as on-demand content. You can also get information on TV1 Live events that are available only to 5 customers in Atlantic Canada on Channel 1 and 401. 5 TV1, brought to you by Bell Alliant. Scott Squires and Matt Paul with you, our TV1 crew, the fine folks from 45 North. Glad to be bringing you this action here in draw number 3 from the Deloitte Tankard. Day 2 of the Nova Scotia Provincial Curling Championships, the Scotties Tournament of Hearts, and the Deloitte Tankard. And we got a dandy going here. Stuart Thompson up against it here in this 10th end, but we've referenced it a couple of times before. If any rink is able to muster a steal, it is certainly this Stuart Thompson rink, and that's doesn't have a choice. He needs to steal.
If he makes, the simple way to look at it, if they make 8 shots in a row, they're going to get 2. 99 times out of 100. So make your 8, and
Thompson with the hammer. He doesn't need to steal. It's a little easier path for him to points here.
No, that first one slipping in was too bad. But you're certainly not, the end's certainly not over. You only need 2. Hopefully, you're hoping he noses this, because then you can put you'll see it when it comes up here. You can put a corner guard right in a difficult spot to move.
Nick Burdock with his throw on the nose. Shooter out. Thompson stone out. 1 less yellow for Mayhew to worry about. And that is the name of the game. Run Thompson out of rocks. The less yellow that Mayhew sees, the better it is for them. And as you go through a tournament like this, you know, sometimes you look at the stones or the rocks, you just take it for granted. Yeah, they're curling rocks, and we pick them up and throw them. But depending on who looks after them, how sharp they are, how long is it before you, as a curler, get a feel for what rocks you like and what ones you don't want? Do you get a comfort level with certain rocks?
Yeah, for sure. Rocks are different from rock to rock, so are players in terms of how they kind of get that comfort kind of thing. Some guys like to use a stopwatch religiously to time rocks and sort of figure out what should be together. Some guys just throw a couple draws with them kind of thing, and they can get a pretty quick feel for it. That's why in finals they'll allow you to take 2 rocks from any sheet kind of thing, and it's but the other, the flip side of this is guys generally tend to make far too big of a deal out of some of the differences in the stones. Crutch, like anything that, since you can't be proven immediately, then it's a bit of a crutch sometimes. But
it's got to be a frustrating feeling for the Thompson team, because they know that every yellow they put up, just going to be attempted anyway to be peeled away by Team Mayhew. And look at this Thompson. They're having to work, and this is not going to make the hog line. And again, that's not uncommon. We've seen that a couple of times in this draw, and we referenced it. We saw it earlier. And you you don't see a miss that way. In other words, not making the hog line. That's you don't see.
I try, and I mean, it's to keep that shot up on one side of center or the other, if you can, kind of thing, to give it some good ice to go in. But it's it's tough for the leads at the ends of games.
Well, it just becomes target practice now for Team Mayhew, as they're just going to hang out and keep this end as absolutely clean as possible.
It's going to take a cross check from somebody, I think, to
full contact curling. That could again be.
I've seen it actually. It's not in extreme northern Ontario.
Now that would be something to stream live.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there you see Colter with the stopwatch timing this one, and well, moments ago we saw a rock not make the hog line, which plays right into the hands of Mayhew and what they need to do here. This one will cross the hog line, and it'll sit about 3 feet over that hog line as a very long guard. And well, no surprise, Mayhew puts an X on the spot, and he'll ask for this next shot to come right down there and just peel it away. I believe it's Pat Ryan that has the reputation amongst Canadian curling lore as being probably the best peeler in the history of men's curling anyway.
Sure.
Wants to hit it on the angle, peel it out, shooter's out, and it stays clean.
I think he's the only one with a record album too.
Pat Ryan's peels?
Yeah.
It was certainly a skill that he had on lock, that's for sure. And it's a skill that Team Mayhew here as they are watching the Yellowstones dwindle away and getting that much closer to running their record to 2-1. Should Mayhew hang on, that would be their record, and that would put the first blemish on the record of Team Thompson. The Thompson trio. Trying undefeated, but not looking good here as we get down to the late stages of this 10th end. They do have the hammer, but they're running out of rocks.
Like, not necessarily this end, but throughout the course of the game too. I like that Mayhew, he seemed to recognize danger a little bit more quickly than some of the other teams out there, and never lets things get out of control.
And staying right on script. Yellowstone in play, Bluestone peel it away. And no, I think you're right. I mean, I even kind of mentioned top of the broadcast that, yes, all the curlers are focused, but there seemed to be an extra level
Yeah.
of laser focus with Mayhew. And to your point, he really seems to have had a good control on the overall game here today.
Oh, I'm telling you, he, you can argue shots back and forth till you're blue in the face kind of thing, but what's on over the years and what some of the bigger skips have said is just predictability kind of thing. You know what you want to do, you're going to do it. A call that you're going to make that's arguable, whatever, fine. As long as it's not something, that's not out of left field type deal, that you're going to be close in terms of the strategy. So just worry about executing a little bit more.
Well, we're getting down to the short strokes here now in this 10th end. And that control that we're talking about and that focus from Mayhew, it can't do anything but be a positive and filter down through his teammates.
No, for sure.
I'm sure that they feel that, and that gives them a little bit of extra. Look to the leader, and it's like, okay, he's in control here. We're good. So Mayhew settles in here with his first of 2 skip stones in this 10th end. And they call for it right away to get some sweepers on. And, well, maybe a little thinner than he would have liked, but no problem as the shooter still rolls out and keeps it clean. So
close enough.
Close enough, that's right. And we're down now to the last 2 yellow rocks for Stuart Thompson and his team. This has been a fun draw of curling to watch. 2 very good teams going at it back and forth.
Yeah, it's just kind of rolled along because nobody's really missed anything big. Nobody's there's been some giant turning point, really.
No, absolutely. I think it's been a pretty crisp draw of curling. Well,
and I mean, you got 2 skips, you know what they're doing too, so that's always gonna help.
Travis Colter, Colten, Steele out, brushing this one for their skip. And now all Thompson can hope for is an outright miss from Robert Mayhew. I would say safe to say if Mayhew catches any part of that yellow stone at all, they can shake hands and chalk up the victory for Team Mayhew. All eyes here at the Mayflower Curling Club on sheet 3. The only draw left on the ice here from the 4 o'clock draw. Tankard. And this is it. Is victory number 2 laying in the result of this stone from Mayhew? It certainly is. It's there, it's on, it's out, and it's over. Handshakes and just an excellent draw of curling between Team Stuart Thompson and Team Mayhew. And I mean, it sounds cliche, but it is almost a shame that one of them had to lose because,
for sure,
as you said, it was a pretty crisp, clean draw of curling, and 2 skips that, as you said, knew what they're doing, were very much in control. But, at the end of the day, it was the couple of blanks by Mayhew in 7 and 8, and then setting himself up for the deuce in 9 that made the difference. So the final score is 5-3 as Team Mayhew runs the record to 2-1, and Thompson has their record fall to 2-1. The final thoughts from you, Matt?
Well, yeah, you got to feel for the Thompson team and not having that 4th player's big. I mean, that's and like I also said, it really shouldn't be that big of a deal. The first sweeper does 80%, the second sweeper does about 20. So you are losing some of the sweeping, and only adding 1 rock to somebody's end shouldn't make a difference. But it really does. I think it's like you were saying, it just throws everything out of sync a little bit. So it's just it's too bad it had to go down like that. But you gotta look at Mayhew's team, and they just played well and solid. So can't fault them for it. No,
absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more. Well, that wraps up things here. I want to remind you, TV1 live stream will be back on the air at 8 o'clock Atlantic time for the 4th draw of women's action. Again, we'll have all of the action from sheet 3 and 4 here at the Mayflower. If you're following along the scoreboard online, it will be sheet 2 and 3. Well, on behalf of Matt, Paul, and our crew here from TV1 and including the fine folks from 45 North, I'm Scott Squires. Once again, your final score, Team Mayhew defeats Team Thompson by a score of 5-3. Thanks very much for watching. We'll be back with you at 8 p.m. Atlantic time for Women's Draw 4. Until then, I'm Scott Squires. Take care. Have a great night. So long from the Mayflower Curling Club.